Insta-love. That seemingly most hated of all YA tropes doesn't seem to be going anywhere. It keeps showing up in book after book, and why? And why do we hate it, I guess? I don't know that I necessarily hate it, it's just something that I've been noticing. And another question, does it affect you differently depending on what age you are? I think that a lot of things come into play. Do you have to be jaded to hate it? Jaded about romance and love? Or is it just something that just never actually happens, and so we don't believe that it's realistic? There's a lot. I have not done any scientific research, as you can well imagine. There's no science going on here. But I will tell you this. I think that the answer to Insta-love is a very complex one. And that is particularly, and let's keep this as related to young adult books. You have to understand about young adult books is that regardless of whether a young adult is considered someone in like later middle school, high school, like early college, if that's considered young adult, that's really besides the point. Because what the publishers consider young adult is to be 12 years old. And that's the market that is being directed towards. Now, is a 12-year-old old enough to be completely jaded about the possibility that romantic love is a magical, wonderful thing that could happen just by eyes meeting across the room, across a crowded cafeteria between a homely girl and a sparkly vampire? Maybe I might have still believed at 12 years old that love could happen in an instant, that it was something that was just like it was on the movies and just like this magic that exists between two people. I think that over the years, much like the Easter Bunny, the magic sort of wears away. And then you're left with someone's hungover dad in a dirty rabbit suit. The older you get, the more likely you are to not believe in love at first sight. I think it's difficult for a lot of people to believe in Insta-love because they've never experienced it and they've never heard of anyone else they know experiencing it. I've never met anyone who has admitted to any love at first sight. Ever. I have to say ever. I've worked with literally thousands of clients as a psychotherapist, and not one of them has had love at first sight or an Insta-love experience. Now, what all of them have experienced? Insta-lust. It's true. I mean, we are animals. Basically, we're all animals, and we are sexually attracted to people. And this is where I might make a few people pissy. We really do confuse lust with love. And I think that a lot of times, particularly in the writing, that's intentional because it's very difficult to sell a 12-year-old the idea that love doesn't happen automatically, but lust does. And getting that past gatekeepers is particularly difficult. I've read books and thought certain things about those books and kind of looked at the relationships in those books and did not get a feel that the characters were in love right away. And then I've read reviews by bigger YA readers, people who read YA almost exclusively, who jumped on those particular relationship moments in the book and called it Insta-love. And I was like, well, I don't really feel like they're in love. I don't feel like that's been captured. I think what's been captured is lust. And that brings us to another thing entirely. And that is that as readers or observers of art or movies or music or books, in this case, we sort of supplant our own expectations onto books. We transpose them. Our own relationship with the book becomes just as important as what the author's intent was for the book. So you read a situation where two people seem to connect really quickly, and you equate that with your expectation. Certain big books, which everyone have read over the course of the last 3 years, have set up certain expectations around love at first sight and have created the trope of that. I think that was reacted to in such a negative way that when you see this new stuff, you instantly go, up, Insta-love, I don't like it. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some authors who are selling pretty much the idea of Insta-love. Like they're going straight into that with the intent that you can, that I'm going to write a love at first sight story. Because that's happening too. And that's geared towards, the specific reader who is into that, who sort of loves the wonder and magic of romance. and how that can happen. I mean, there's a lot of people who prefer the slow build. You know, there's different preferences here. And I think that if you're reacting negatively to it, it's probably a relation to your concept of the world is different. I know mine is. So what happens to me when I'm reading a book, just a regular YA fantasy, and I come across a really quick insta-love scenario? I usually kind of dismiss it. I mean, I have to say, I don't really engage with it as much as I would a slow building romance because I don't, number one, I am definitely on the insta-love acceptance continuum, which I have drawn here. I'm definitely more towards the jaded reality end than the romance is magic end, which makes me kind of sad, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's realistic. I also don't feel like a lot of um, this is coming from remembering teenage years and working with teenagers for 12 years, is that I don't think that romantic relationships that are built during times where you are creating your personality are meant to last. I don't believe that. I think that there's a certain time frame where your sort of your sexuality kind of blossoms and your attraction blossoms. And I think that during that I want to say it's like a 10-year time frame. I always told people they should never look at someone in terms of spending their life with them until they were 27. I feel like that you develop certain ways of relating to people on a one-on-one basis and communicating and being honest with yourself and others during that time frame. And it's not something you've learned prior to that. You didn't finish middle school, end up in high school, and you're prepared for a long-term relationship. It does not happen like that. In fact, I mean, I see my friends nowadays, and there's a lot of them have been through divorces, and a lot of them are single again, and it's just really, really difficult. It's not something that is easy for anyone, and it is harder for someone who's a teenager. It's the element of insta-love that is embraced is the fantasy aspect of it, and I think that that's fine. I mean, if you want to look at that in terms of this sort of the wonderful magical elements of romance, look at it as that. But understand that in real romance, it's something you have to work at. It's not so easy. It's just not so easy. And yeah. So yeah. So in terms of how I relate to reading Insta-love, I do dismiss it quite a bit and move along with the story. And I wish, I wish I was able to connect with it. I wish I was able to reach back in sort of the recesses of my memory and connect with that moment where I was like, yeah, that's magic. Wow, love at first sight is awesome. I can't wait for the day. But I can't. Those days are gone. It's hard. It's hard. I feel so bad. Oh, God. There's no bourbon left.